In the early 18th century, piracy surged across the Atlantic. Thousands of pirates roamed the Caribbean, the American coast, and West African waters. The end of the War of the Spanish Succession in 1714 had left many sailors unemployed, and piracy offered a brutal but profitable alternative. British colonial trade, increasingly vital to the empire, suffered as merchant ships fell prey to these roving bands. The British government, under George I, saw the need to rein in this growing threat. The result was the King's Pardon of 1718, a calculated move to reduce piracy not by force alone, but by offering a clean slate. The pardon, formerly known as the Proclamation for Suppressing of Pirates, granted full legal forgiveness to any pirate who surrendered themselves within a specified time frame. The original deadline was set for September 5th of 1718, and later extended due to practical difficulties. The idea was simple. Pirates could walk away from their crimes if they swore allegiance to the crown and gave up their trade. This approach wasn't born from goodwill. It was a tactic to break piracy's momentum. The British Navy lacked the resources to chase down every pirate ship across such a vast area. Hunting pirates was expensive, slow, and risky. Offering pardon created a split in pirate ranks. It introduced doubt and division, as some pirates began to question whether continuing their lifestyle was worth the risk when legal freedom was now an option. One of the central figures in carrying out the pardon was Woodes Rogers, a former privateer turned royal governor of the Bahamas. When he arrived in Nassau in 1718, the town had become a pirate hub, with dozens of ships using it as a base. Rogers, backed by naval support, offered the king's terms and promised safety to those who complied. He combined this offer with pressure, a show of force, arrests, and swift punishments for those who resisted. Many pirates accepted. Names like Benjamin Hornigold and Palsgrave Williams chose to abandon piracy. Some even turned into pirate hunters themselves, aiding the authorities against former comrades. Hornigold, for example, once a feared pirate captain, began pursuing others who refused the pardon. This added another layer of pressure to those still clinging to piracy. But the pardon didn't end piracy overnight. Not all pirates trusted the offer. Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, pretended to accept the pardon, only to return to his old ways under different names and tactics. Charles Vane outright rejected it, seeing it as a trap. For them, piracy was not just an economic move. It was a rejection of the order they had once served under. Their refusal to submit kept naval forces in action, and many would die in the years following the proclamation. Still, the pardon changed the trajectory of piracy. It weakened pirate networks, pulled away supporters, and allowed authorities to retake key locations. Combined with increased naval patrols and harsher sentences, piracy lost much of its former appeal. By the mid-1720s, the so-called Golden Age of piracy was over. The pardon also reflected broader political and economic strategies. Britain's empire was growing, and stability in its trade routes was a priority. The Crown could not afford to let piracy continue unchecked. But brute force alone wasn't enough. The pardon offered a different kind of leverage, one that spoke to self-interest. It was cheaper to forgive than fight. It also gave local governors a legal tool to reshape their regions. In places like the Bahamas, this marked the beginning of more direct British control. However, the pardon also raises questions about justice and power. Many pirates had turned to crime because they had few other options. The end of wartime demand for sailors left thousands adrift. The same empire that forgave them had once profited from their services as privateers. legal pirates essentially. The pardon was a practical fix, not a moral judgment. It forgave crimes not because they were unimportant, but because it served the crown's interests. In this sense, the king's pardon of 1718 wasn't just about stopping pirates. It was about reasserting control. Pirates had created their own loose systems of order, their own rules, and in some cases, their own communities. Forgiveness stripped them of that independence and reabsorbed them into the imperial framework. The pardon's impact stretched beyond the Caribbean. It signaled to other colonies and rivals that Britain was serious about protecting its trade. It also sent a message to future pirates. There would be fewer safe havens, fewer loopholes, and more consequences. Those who missed the window of mercy would face the gallows. In the end, the king's pardon of 1718 was a gamble that mostly paid off. It didn't erase piracy, but it weakened its hold. It wasn't fair, but it was effective. It showed that power isn't always exercised through force. Sometimes the promise of mercy, carefully timed and politically shaped, can change the course of history.